Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network. And now, let's experience New Thought Philadelphia.
I'm always amazed how the various parts of these celebrations together to pregame my talk before I get there in absolute perfection, which is just the one mind actually unfolding as it should be. And so today, I wanted to start with, we're living in turbulent times. And in fact, this is always true. We are always living in turbulent times. Something is always going on. We have not achieved peace externally. We have not come to a unity of life in our world, in the conditional aspect of it. And so the question becomes, how do we remain focused and uplifted and aware during whatever we're experiencing? See, there's kind of an inner and an outer turbulence. Often the outer turbulence, which can be anything from a hurricane to watching the news to a briefly irritating conversation with a colleague or a loved one or whatever that happens to be. And it activates our fears. It activates that part of ourselves that, okay, I'm going to not lay this on you. I'm going to take it for myself because this is how my mind operates. I have a built-in forgetter. And that built-in forgetter forgets the truth that I know and jumps into, oh my God, there's nothing I can do about this. There's this terrible thing going on and my heart is hurting and my mind is baffled and I have no idea what I can do about this. And that often happens when those outer conditions begin to impact our consciousness. Now, it was said long, long ago by whom I forget, that it might have been Michael Beckwith, that the news is but a prayer list. To recognize the truth behind whatever condition is going on. And this always brings me up, and I'm not going to get into it deeply because it's another talk entirely, about the omnis. Omniscience, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniactive nature of God. So if we're looking at this and if we know this, right, we know that it is all spirit. Even them. It must be. For this infinite power that we talk about in these Sunday celebrations that we experience when we're sitting on our purple pillows, when we are interacting with love and compassion with somebody else who is not really somebody else, but is just us in a different form, we can often forget when they've activated our fear and our anger and our sense of injustice, that they is us. Because there really isn't a they. It's all God. It's all now. And sometimes it's very difficult to remember that. And so those outer turbulences, those outer storms that we see and we perceive, begin to impact our inner stillness with turbulence as well. Who has not? And this isn't a raise your hand question. Who has not experienced something in which you automatically became angry? I don't care what it was. I don't care what the condition was, but something disturbed you to the point of anger, potentially rage. And this is the inner turbulence which shakes our awareness of the allness of God, the goodness of God, this love that is the all-encompassing unity of life, of everything, whether it's anger or envy or greed or embarrassment, or when you take the masks off, the fears are, multiplied, but there's actually only one of them. And the fear is that this isn't so. And it becomes a question of faith. And it can be the smallest irritation that throws us into this tumult that begins as a small tempest in a teacup and then becomes world encompassing. And all of a sudden, doom and gloom are the aspects of our mentality that we are clinging to, with that little bit of light and stillness that we try to reach for to bring some equilibrium back to our personal experience of life. So when something on the outside, in that sphere of perception that we have, which is limited, you got to give it that. It's a limited sphere of perception, because we can only deal with those things in that sphere that we encounter personally, whether or not they are an interaction with another divine individual or an interaction with all of our various media channels, or however that's coming about. We can only experience it within ourselves as we respond or react to it. That's the sphere of perception. The sphere of control, the actual area of control, is much smaller. It is that part within us where we have the ability to change our experience by changing how we are perceiving that which is being impressed upon us, right? So there we are, we're going, okay, there's this terrible thing going on right now. Pick your poison. There's plenty of them, And somehow I've internalized that, and I've gotten upset, and I'm out there with my, my banner going, we need to change this. But the reality, and that may be so. I'm not going to say it's not. I mean, I'm a man of peace. I believe that we can achieve peace universally. I believe that there is an allness of love that can be expressed individually through each of us, as all of us. I believe that there is enough. I believe that the infinite abundance of a divine universe has quite enough for all of us to live in grand manner. Whatever that area is, I need to look at the turmoil within myself. And this is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, right? So we spend our times in this metaphysical philosophy of unity trying to understand, first intellectually and then as a wholeness of being, the good that is God. So that's where we start with practical prayer. And this is a proven methodology for changing your thinking to change your experience. We start with what we know. Now that knowing can be intellectual. And often it's said the journey from the head to the heart is a really long road. Because we can know something intellectually, but where is our faith when that turbulence arises and we have no stillness? We have no ability to listen to the still small voice at that moment and to bring into our consciousness at that moment the goodness that we intellectually know must be present, because it's omniscient, omnipresent. It means all of that infinite power of love is present right where I am now, as it must be fully present through everything. And so we remind ourselves with a prayer by connecting with that, and then recognizing that we must be some part of it. And moving forward, we have to claim what the good is that we want, whether it's large or small, and we build this idea that leads to faith when we watch it work once in a while. And then we watch it work a little more often. And as we become practiced at this, and as our faith deepens into an awareness that there is a power that is responding to us beyond our ability to say, oh, that was a coincidence, we start to have a deep awareness of how we move through the flow of life. And we begin to get a little still. So that's the way that it moves from our head to our heart. I'm going to bring up another thing that in meditating about this talk, I realized something, that quite often it's moving in the other direction. It's moving from our heart to our head. When we have a faith beyond our understanding, when we have a knowing, an experience of the unity of life, we feel it in our heart. Our heart becomes light. We become joyous. We become interactive, brave, whatever the words that encourage you to be the best version of who you are as an individual expression of that divine light becomes more apparent when we feel it in our heart. It's that moment of reaching out to the person in pain. Just know, without really knowing what you're going to say, but knowing that you have to reach out. Because that's spirit speaking onto itself, uplifting itself through our activity as individuals. That's when we have the stillness of mind. And it's often referred to as the one-step treatment, which is to know the truth without having to go through the intellectual exercise of reminding ourselves that the allness of good, the allness of God, the infinite love and abundance and harmony and peace and order that is this thing that we talk about is present right here and right now as us and as that thing or person that we're interacting with. And so we become still within the storm. We become clear with the perfect activities, the perfect words, the perfect expressions that bring more life, more love, more harmony, more joy, more peace to whatever the condition is that we are confronted with. Because what we have is this switch from this is being done to me to this is being done for me to act, to be that embodiment of love and light and joy as we move outward into this experience of the moment of conditional living. I mean, here we are, right? We're in the world. And each one of us must start where we are because you really can't be anywhere else. So whether or not you start with the intellectual exercise of bringing yourself to stillness through the awareness and the words and the ideas of the allness of God through a prayer, or you bring yourself to the stillness by sitting and meditating until the point of the breath is the only thing that is there and the mind just becomes quiet, and you experience the divine individualized in ourselves. And then you can begin to radiate it. And from there, the beauty of this is, from there we can move farther than we think possible. Because our area of influence, which is outside that area of perception, in fact, may be limitless. Haven't been everything yet, so I don't know whether that's true, but it feels that way to me, that there is a limitless potential for each one of us to impact all that is. That's a really big thought. And sometimes when I meditate, I feel that, or when I chant, and all of a sudden the voices go away and I'm in that place of no thought, that I know that we are one. So what we do individually, it makes a difference. Whether it's a physical activity that we are supporting, or whether, and most importantly, the power of our thought rippling through and being responded to by this infinite law that brings about more good. We start with ourselves because it's really difficult to be a philanthropist when you're trying to figure out where the next meal is coming from. you know? And so as we become comfortable in that, we expand that outward to perhaps our spiritual community or the people we interact with at work. And then it gets bigger because it's where we move. When you move into love, when you move into consciousness, it will always grow. And then we start praying for our politicians. And then we start praying for the areas of difficulty in the world. And then we start praying for, universal food for everyone, and joy and harmony and an awareness in whatever manner they want to be aware of this divine essence, because we're an allowing philosophy. If somebody has a specific belief that's working for them, that's helping them be a greater person than they were before, a greater expression of this divine love and harmony, then bless them. Absolutely bless them. And so the point is, when we can move past the storm, it's not to be in the eye of the storm. Really, it's not, because that means that there's still storming all around you. It's to move beyond that to the outer edge of that storm, and to know the truth of the wholeness of that storm as an instant in the infinite unfolding of life that is subject to change. And so we begin where we are, and we bring that greater love, that greater harmony, that greater divine order to our own individual part of the infinite allness of God, and God must respond. Not might. There's no Santa God. God must respond. Otherwise, what we are talking about is BS. Bill has a different take on that part. So here's the thing. It comes down to faith. Either we believe this, that God is all, or we don't. So I invite you to start the journey, if you have not already, or to deepen your journey if you're already down the road, to a greater awareness of the allness of love, the allness of harmony, the allness of abundance and prosperity and all of the good that is that divine nature, because the biggest idea that you can have of that is what the law is responding to. We are each practitioners, whether you got a license or not. And you can't put this genie back in the bottle. So I know that each one of you is the individual expression of a divine idea of perfection right here and right now. And I am blessed to be in your presence. Namaste.